A fresh track presses into the mud of a rainforest floor, then disappears beneath the wet leaves before the animal that made it is ever seen. Dawn rises across a range of layered canopy and grey limestone, and the sound is enormous. Birdsong stacked on insects, a forest that reports itself as full. Yet the trail below holds no movement. The camera waits, and nothing large arrives. Instead, the eye finds a thin loop of wire, noosed low across the path, tied off to a sapling. Somewhere in the understory shadow, a small pair of eyes catches the light and holds still. The great hunters of these mountains are already gone. Something smaller is still working this ground. In Nghệ An, Pù Mát wakes as sound before it wakes as light. Evergreen forest runs in wet layers up the slopes, and at first light the air fills with birdsong and the steady grind of insects. By every measure the ear can take, this is a forest in full health. The trees are here, the water is here. The noise is here. Only one thing is missing, and it takes minute after minute of empty trail to notice what. Nothing large ever walks into the open trail. The absence lasts long enough to become a fact, not a pause. There should be pug marks pressed into this mud. Tigers and leopards once ranged these forests. Both are functionally gone now, extirpated across the country, and the ground keeps no record of them. What the mud holds instead is a set of small, cloven tracks, and on the soundtrack, the sharp cough of a barking deer alarm, a muntjac somewhere out of sight, calling and then falling silent. The animals leave signs, they rarely leave themselves. The trail holds one thing that moves. It moves only because the wind moves it. A single strand of wire hangs across the path at knee height, bent into a noose and anchored to a young stem. This is the predator that has hollowed Pù Mát. Not muscle or tooth, but a loop of cheap cable set by a hand that will not return for days. A snare does not choose. It kills by size and by chance, closing on whatever leg or neck happens to pass through it, taking the common animal and the last of its kind with exactly equal indifference. One wire is a nuisance. Across Cambodia, Laos and Vietnam, conservation estimates have counted snares in the millions, set along trails and drift lines until a forest floor can become a net that never announces itself. This is what conservation science has come to call empty forest syndrome. A canopy left standing while the large mammals beneath it are stripped away, until the forest looks intact, but is only a shell. Pù Mát is loud precisely because the survivors of the animals a ground snare tends to miss. The birds overhead, the insects, and the small, light-footed hunters that can still thread the gaps. In the understory, that low pair of eyes belongs to one of them. A leopard cat, no larger than a well-fed house cat, watches the trail edge and waits for the dark to deepen. The trick of an empty forest is that it does not announce its wound. A valley can keep its green roof, its mist, its insects, and still lose the animals that made the understory move. Seeds fall with fewer mouths to carry them. Alarm calls thin out. Old paths remain open after the feet that made them have stopped returning. What is missing is not silence, it is weight. The pressure of bodies large enough to bend grass, break fern, and leave a trail that can be followed at dawn. It is built for exactly this reduced world. The leopard cat hunts at night, works the margins of forest and clearing, and takes rodents with a short, committed pounce. It needs little ground and little prey to hold a life together, and it asks nothing of the vanished big cats whose range it now inherits by default. Where a tiger needed a territory measured in tens of square kilometers and a steady supply of large prey, this animal needs a trail edge, a rat run, and a night without a wire in the wrong place. So it moves. It slips along the litter at the edge of the path, low and unhurried, pausing where the leaf cover breaks. Further along, something small shifts in the understory and goes quiet. A rustle, then nothing. The outcome left in the dark where the cat carries it. This is the whole of the hunt that Pù Mát can still stage. Not a great predator running down great prey, but a small one, collecting what the forest has left, one rodent at a time. It is survival by size and by luck. The leopard cat passes the wire tonight because it is light enough to step over the loop instead of into it, and because chance sends its foot to bare ground rather than through the noose. Neither of those is a strategy. Neither of them is permanent. The same indifference that emptied this trail of tigers is still strung across it, and it does not distinguish between a rat and a rare thing. It distinguishes only between what fits the loop and what does not. That is the shape of the void these mountains have to cross. The largest hunters are gone. The one hunter still working the ground survives on the margin of a trap that never sleeps. If strength cannot hold this forest, and even the small must trust to luck, then the hunt has to fall to animals built outside the usual bargain of warm blood, fast hunger, and long pursuit. Cold blood changes the terms before the next trail even appears. Down off the montane block, where the rainforest flattens toward lowland streams, that cold blood is already moving. The change is not dramatic from a distance. It is written close to the soil, in the animals that still have food, cover, and time. The land falls away from the montane block, and the rainforest changes its footing. In the lowlands of Khe Nuoc Trong, water gathers and runs, shallow streams braiding through leaf litter, root and mud and standing pool. The heat sits close to the ground here, thick and unmoving. And close to the ground is where the forest's next hunters read the world. Something slides along the litter, low and level, holding its head just clear of the leaves. It does not look for prey so much as taste for it. A forked tongue flickers out and back, gathering the air, laying scent against a sensory patch in the roof of the mouth, and building from stray molecules a map no eye could draw. This is a hunter that works the ground by chemistry rather than by sight, and on ground the wire has stripped of mammals, chemistry is still finding something worth the following. The tracker is a king cobra, the longest venomous snake on Earth, and the trail it reads belongs to another snake. That is the thing that sets it apart in an emptied forest. The king cobra is an ophiophage, a predator that hunts and eats other snakes. Its food is not the deer trail or the civet path, but another hidden traffic moving under leaves and roots. A ground snare closes on a leg or a neck. A snake carries neither. It passes beneath the wire or through it, and keeps hunting in a layer of the forest the trap was never built to read. So the king cobra does not starve. It moves through these streams as a specialist the crisis has, if anything, favored. Its prey still here, its competition gone to the wire. Threatened, it can lift a third of its length clear of the ground and spread the narrow hood that names it, meeting a larger animal at eye height and holding there, swaying, until the threat withdraws. But that display is defense, not the hunt. The hunt itself is quieter than any camera can hold. The patient reading of scent along a bank, the follow, the fast close. What the forest shows afterward is only the long body settled among the roots, in no hurry to move. This is not a victory with a roar in it. It is a redistribution of pressure. The cobra does not replace the vanished cats. It occupies a different corridor, one the wire cannot easily close. Its advantage is narrow, almost accidental, but in a forest changed by indiscriminate traps, narrow advantages become whole futures. The lowland chapter therefore changes the scale of the story. Pù Mát showed a forest losing weight from the ground up. Nuk Trong shows what happens after that loss begins to sort the survivors. The animals that need constant warm prey are forced into smaller margins, while hunters with slower bodies and stranger diets keep finding usable routes through the same leaf litter. The forest is not becoming peaceful. It is becoming selective in a new way, favoring animals whose lives pass under the wire rather than through it. That selection is quiet, but it changes every hunt that follows. Then, nearer the water, something heavier shifts. Where the stream widens into a still pool, a second hunter holds its ground by weight. A reticulated python lies coiled in cover, the longest snake in the world, its skin a lattice of black and gold that breaks its outline into scattered light. It reads by scent as well, but its whole method is stillness. It does not walk the ground down. It waits in an ambush coil, spending almost nothing while it lets prey come within range. That patience is the entire advantage. A constrictor of this size turns stillness into a way of surviving lean ground. It does not have to patrol the forest as a cat does, reading every trail for the next small chance. It can fold its weight into cover and let the moment come to it. In a landscape where hunger punishes movement, the python survives by making almost none. Between the cobra that eats the forest's other predators and the python that outweights everything, two reptiles now hold lowland ground no starving cat could keep. The reshuffle's earliest winners do not win by strength. They win by needing so little that the crisis barely touches them. But cold blood inherits only the low, wet ground. Higher up, where the forest climbs into cloud and the hunters that must inherit the canopy carry warm blood and large appetites, the same trap waits with a longer reach. Off the streams, up on the coast where the trees stand in salt and open sun, the test grows harder. And it begins with the one animal in these chapters that hides from nothing. The forest changes character where the mountains meet the sea. On the Sun Tra Peninsula, a green headland pushing into the water beside Da Nang, the canopy opens to the light and the air carries salt. This is not the shrouded interior of the Annamite block, where every animal is a rumor and a track in mud. Here the trees stand in full sun for much of the day, and for once the forest reveals what the rest of the range keeps hidden: an animal moving in the open, at height, in plain view. It arrives in color. A red-shanked duke steps along a high branch on shanks the deep red of old brick, its forearms sheathed in white as though drawn through long gloves, its face a pale gold mask ringed in rust. A grey body, black hands, a white tail hanging behind it like a dropped banner. Nothing else in these forests wears anything close. Where every other creature here survives by staying unseen, the duke lives its whole life in the upper story of the canopy, in daylight, in a coat that conceals nothing at all. For a while, the canopy finally offers something open and unhidden. The troop feeds in the crowns, folding young leaves and shoots into its mouth with unhurried hands, working the softest growth at the branch tips where the light is strongest. Between bouts of feeding, the animals settle close and groom, parting each other's fur in long, careful passes, an infant clinging low against a female's chest. There is no chase here, and no kill. There is only a community of leaf-eaters going about an ordinary morning, and in a forest this emptied, an ordinary morning is the rarest morning of all. That visibility is exactly the point, and exactly the danger. The red-shanked duke is an endemic of these Indo-Chinese forests, a legally protected primate found across the Annamite belt and almost nowhere beyond it. It should not be a hard animal to find, yet its daylight boldness, its color, and its habit of feeding in the open give it no protection from a hunter with a rifle and patience. To be seen in this forest is not to be safe. It is only to be easier. The Duke also changes the emotional temperature of the journey. After wire, scent, venom and coils, it gives the forest a social face. Hands searching fur, bodies balancing on thin branches, an infant learning the geography of its mother before it learns the geography of the trees. That ordinary tenderness matters because it is not decoration. It is the life the predator ladder depends on, the daily herbivore rhythm that keeps leaves turning into bodies, bodies into alarm calls, and alarm calls into warnings that travel through the canopy. Then the canopy stops. Somewhere across the ridgeline, a single flat report rolls out over the trees, a distant gunshot, carried thin on the sea wind. The birdsong drops out of the air. The Duke troop freezes mid-branch, every head turned, every hand still, the grooming and the feeding suspended in an instant of shared attention. For a long moment, the loud forest holds its breath, and the animals wait to learn whether the sound belongs to them. It passes. The troop does not scatter, and no animal drops from the branch. But the troop itself gives the wrong arithmetic. It is small for the season, smaller than a healthy peninsula should carry, the adults spaced wide and quick to still at any noise from the ground. These are not relaxed animals in a safe place. They are a thinned, watchful remnant, reading danger from every direction, and their wariness is a measurement. The pressure that empties the hidden interior, the wire on the trail and the shot on the ridge, reaches even here, even the one animal the forest cannot hide. If the drain is visible in the species that lives in full sun, it is running far deeper in all the ones that do not. And that raises the forest's hardest question yet. If even the animals plainly in view are being pulled down, if the base of the whole system is quietly draining away, which predator could still hold the canopy above them? To answer it, the trail has to climb, off the coast, up into the evergreen heights, to look for the one hunter that may have found a way to live above the wire entirely. The coast falls behind and the forest climbs. Baik Ma rises out of the lowlands in a single steep wall of green, an evergreen massif that catches the sea cloud and wears it late into the day. By dusk, the light goes blue between the trunks and the canopy overhead closes into a second forest, a suspended world of branch and vine and hanging moss, layered as densely as the ground below and, for now, far harder to reach with a length of wire. This climb asks a plain question, whether any hunter is left that can still hold this forest outright. If there is one, it does not live on the ground. It lives up here, in the failing light, in the space above the trap. For a while, the canopy is only itself. The mist moves through the crowns, the last birds go quiet, and the mid-story darkens into corridors of branch that lead nowhere the eye can follow. The forest is the character first, before any animal steps into it, a vertical country of footholds and gaps that most predators cannot use at all. Then, high on a mossy trunk, something moves that belongs to none of the ground rules the rest of this forest has obeyed. A clouded leopard comes down the trunk head first, hind feet braced against the bark, its long tail swung out behind it for balance. The coat is unmistakable, pale ground broken by large, dark-edged blotches that dissolve the animal into the dappled canopy the instant it stops moving. It is a cat built for exactly this story of the forest. It climbs where the others cannot. Rests draped along a horizontal branch with its legs hanging loose, and moves through the mid-canopy on limbs and joints made for gripping rather than running. Here, at last, is the closest thing to an apex these mountains have left, and it hunts above the ground, the snare's own. That is the partial answer this climb has been holding back. The hunt is not dead. One predator still works this forest by leaving the ground behind, taking birds and squirrels and whatever the canopy holds, escaping the wire not by strength but by direction, straight up, into a layer the snare setters cannot easily string. For a moment the reshuffle seems to have found its winner, a real forest cat, holding real ground above the reach of the trap. But look down, past the branch it rests on, to the floor of the same forest. The trails below are strung with wire. The cat's refuge is only the canopy, and the canopy is not sealed off from the ground. It is an island above it, and a shrinking one. To cross a gap in the trees, to reach water, to breed, to move between fragments of unbroken forest, the clouded leopard must eventually come down onto the exact ground the snares hold. Its escape is spatial, not permanent. And the same flaw tells its harder truth in a species that never had the option to climb at all. Austin's civet, an Annamite endemic found almost nowhere else on Earth, forages the leaf litter for worms and small prey along these very streams, a predator that hunts on the ground the wire owns and pays for it. What the canopy grants the leopard, the floor denies the civet outright. That contrast matters because it keeps the clouded leopard from becoming an easy rescue image. The cat is spectacular, but spectacle is not security. A branch can save one night and fail the next gap. A canopy can hide a hunter and still strand it between broken patches of forest. The leopard is not proof that the old order has returned. It is proof that the forest is still capable of surprise, and that surprise is now living on a very narrow ledge. The ledge is ecological as much as physical. A cat above the snare still depends on animals below it, on corridors between trees, on prey that must breed somewhere before it climbs into reach. If the floor keeps emptying, the canopy becomes a refuge without a base. That is why the clouded leopard feels less like an ending than a warning. The forest can keep one astonishing hunter aloft for a while, but it cannot rebuild a hunting guild from branches alone. So the answer is only half an answer. A hunter can still hold this forest, but only by living above it, on a refuge measured in meters and closing year by year as the fragments shrink. One cat surviving in the dusk proves the forest can still carry a predator. It does not prove the forest can keep one. For that, The trail has to go where the last question waits, not to another hunter, but to the single animal whose presence or absence reads the health of the whole system at once, in a valley the outside world has sealed shut to keep it alive. The last valley is a sealed one. Deep in the wet evergreen interior of Quang Nam, a river runs through forest that the outside world reaches only on foot, and the reserve built around it exists to protect a single idea, that some part of the Annamite hunt might still be saved before it is finished. Everything the journey has crossed, the emptied trail, the reptile streams, the thinned troop, the cat above the wire, converges here, on the ground where the forest's health is measured against its rarest life. That life carries two straight parallel horns and a white-marked face, and science has known it for barely a human generation. The Saola is the animal these mountains guard most closely, the so-called Asian unicorn, a forest ox so retiring that few outsiders have ever seen one alive. It is not a predator, and it does not need to be. Critically endangered, it survives only where the evergreen forest remains unbroken enough to feed and shelter it, which is why finding one at all means the forest around it is still intact. On the trail it moves without hurry, browsing the low leaves and pressing its face to a stem, opening the large scent gland below its eye to leave its mark on the wood. Every such mark says this ground is still occupied and still worth the walking. Lose the Saola, and that sign goes with it, the last proof that the forest beneath it has finally emptied out. Hold it, and there is something left to build a forest back around. That is why the Saola changes the argument without ever hunting. The earlier chapters asked which predator could inherit an emptied forest. This valley answers from beneath the predators, at the level of habitat, browse, trails and safety. A forest that can still hold Saola has not merely preserved one rare bovid. It has preserved enough shade, water, undergrowth and quiet for a secretive animal to leave marks and return to them. The animal is not the ruler of the system, it is the reading on the system itself. Which is why the other figures in this valley matter as much as the animal. Along the same trails, a patrol works the forest floor, and what it carries out is the valley's true measure of hope. Coils of cut snare wire hauled from the leaf litter by the sackful. Sack after sack of it lifted off the ground the Saola walks. This is the one thing in the Annamites that answers the wire directly. No stronger predator and no cleverer prey does it. Only a hand that finds the loop and cuts it, then finds the next one, thousands at a time, faster than the setters can replace them. And where that hand has passed, the forest answers back. In a cleared patch, on ground that a chapter ago would have been strung with cable, a leopard cat works the trail edge again. Light, low, unhurried, hunting the margins as its kind has always done. It is another leopard cat, the small survivor first seen on the opening trail, now echoed by its own species on ground that no longer kills at random. Its return is not a triumph. It is a signal, the smallest sign that the hunt can regrow the moment the trap is lifted from it. So the forest can finally answer the question that began in the mud. The great hunters did not fall because the forest ran out of prey or the canopy ran out of room. They fell to the wire, and the wire is not weather, it is not fate. It is a thing a hand sets and a hand can remove. No single species inherits this forest by strength or by luck. The hunt survives only where the snare is cut, and it dies everywhere the snare is left. Inheritance here is not a certainty passed down a ladder of predators. It is a choice, made trail by trail, wire by wire, by whoever chooses to walk the ground and clear it. That choice has a shape, and the forest holds it in two images set side by side. A coil of severed wire closing in a ranger's fist, and, in the fresh mud beyond it, a single set of tracks pressed deep and walking on. Dawn comes back to the Annamites the way it always has, loud with birds and the grind of insects, the canopy reporting itself as full. The difference is on the ground. Where a patrol has walked, a trail runs clear from root to root, no loop of wire bent across it, and the mud holds a single fresh track that no hand set out to erase. The forest does not sound any different for it. It never did. What has changed is smaller than sound and easier to miss. One length of ground where an animal can set its foot down and simply keep walking.